9:01. Good morning, everybody. I think if we're all good on video, audio, we can get started. Okay, can I get a call to order?
Brian Chagas.
Present.
Nick Mielich.
Present.
Gregory Gabriel.
Here.
Samuel Grace.
Present.
And Brian Laura.
Present.
Let the record reflect that Roger Jansen, Michael Baxt, and Kim Doe are not present.
Thank you. Next, we'll have the approval of minutes, July 11th, 2025. Any comments or issues with the minutes from that meeting? If not, could I get a motion for approval?
Motion to approve.
Seconded.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Minutes pass. Report from the urban designer, city urban designer.
Talk slow.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Claudio Aven, City Urban Designer. Well, we have great news. We have a new Director of Development Services. I think you know that person. Ana Maria Pons.
Yes, we do.
Congratulations.
At least we don't have to memorize your name.
Yeah, that's easy, right? Thank you very much, Claudia. I just want to introduce myself. I'm totally biased. I mean, this board is kind of my favorite board for clear reasons. But now I have to oversee all the boards, so it will be an interesting challenge for me. I appreciate all your help over all these years and all your contribution to help us make a great city and build a beautiful city for everybody.
Thank you.
Congrats.
Looking forward to continue working with all of you.
Same for me, for sure. Thank you. Next is remarks by the chairperson. Sitting in for Roger, I have none. Declaration of ex parte communications. Public hearing. I think we could swear in anyone from the public that may be speaking on this case or contributing. Seeing none.
Maybe we should wait a little bit on that. I guess they're
Okay.
going to show up. So.
Sure. I wonder if we can just kind of pause at this point and then kind of skip to city report or just have a general discussion. I have some kind of just general questions we can talk about if we may in the interim to wait for the last board member and the applicant. So I guess I just have a general question. Is there an update on Howard Park? I remember that case coming and the architecture and the landscape architecture and sort of the redo of those facilities. I was walking my dog in Howard Park. There's people fishing and running and bicycling and everything, and I don't see any action or movement on those facilities. I'd like to see if there's an update on that project.
We have not seen any building permits coming through that project, so we can check the status of it. Because that was 4 months ago, maybe more. It was at the beginning.
I think it was
of
a
the
while
year.
ago, and I was just kind of really expecting to I thought it was actually longer than that. It was like a year or something, wasn't it? And then I thought construction was supposed to happen
Yes.
in this fall, and then I don't see anything at all. I'm just wondering what's the status.
Yeah, we have not seen any building permits coming through, but we can definitely check on that.
And would the city hire a firm to, I guess it would be that architectural firm that designed the project, they would produce, or hopefully they've produced the building permit plans, they just haven't been submitted, or how would that work?
I mean, usually that might happen. They might do a request for like a bidding, right, for any contractor. But I can check just because the Parks Department is the one leading that.
Okay. I don't know if it's me, but it seems like the audio is a little low.
Oh,
Is that?
so this is a new system.
Oh.
We have been told that even if you think you cannot be heard, this distance is the one that you should be keeping. you don't need to do this. Because
Okay.
if you go too close, it will blur your actual voice.
I see.
So it's actually better if you keep yourself a little bit apart from it. So it's a new system that we have.
Okay, well, then,
And
good
I
to know.
think everyone is hearing us okay.
Yep.
If not, they can let us know at the end of the meeting.
Oh,
But
great.
yeah,
Okay.
thank you for pointing that out.
And the next question, just in terms of an update, the big twin towers or the big project, 550 Quadrille, is there a status report you can give on that project?
The latest I understand is that they're still working off existing permits, and there's regular building inspections for interior work being done. There was, at one point, the applicant or a representative of the applicant reached out for additional interior changes to the pool deck, which is, I believe, on floor 7. But that permit hasn't come in for that pool deck yet. But what I understand is that they're just working off the existing permits that they have and are still meeting building inspection criteria.
Okay.
Chris and staff, do you have an update from the downtown master plan meeting that Ziskovich did a couple weeks ago? It sounded, I know they're still working on the report, but what was the outcome of that meeting that night? Anything that we can, any direction or thing to point to on that?
Yeah, generally we had a really, really good turnout for that last public hearing, public session. Lots of engagement. The public was very enthusiastic. The Ziskovich team provided very preliminary concepts of potential projects and areas to focus on.
Right.
And generally the public responded pretty well with that and coming up with either supporting ideas or gave opinions on the ideas that presented. The next steps, I believe, is that Ziskovich will be coordinating a meeting with the Northwest Neighborhood District, and obviously getting their input on the area there. And then I believe we'll have an update from them shortly on preliminary findings and regulations.
Great, thank you. It was a great meeting, and there was a lot of attendance and a lot of good conversations. I just didn't know. It sounds like once they get past the Northwest neighborhood section, because that's going to be heavily impacted from this new revised plan, that there's going to be a lot of good changes to the plan, and it looks like the process is working well. So I just want to commend you guys on that, because it was very, very well run, and it was just very productive, I thought.
Yeah.
Agreed. Okay, well, I think all parties are here, and so we can continue. Thank you, everyone. Oh, yes. We can just get the record to reflect that Kim Doe now has joined us. Good morning.
Kim Doe.
Yes, present.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think now we can do the swearing in of the speakers.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you.
Thank you.
Before we proceed, Mr. Chair, you did have a question about Howard Park. I looked in my database, which is the legal database, just to see what's going on. And there is activity there. There's debris removal, but I'm not sure what phase the construction is in.
Oh, okay, thank you. Okay, now we'll go on to continued cases, no continued cases, then new cases. DAC case number 25-02, DMP-00003-2023. A request by Margarita Ramirez of NDT Development for the DAC consideration and recommendation of approval of the proposed face of the city streetscape design along North Railroad Avenue between 10th Street and 11th Street as part of the Nora redevelopment and pursuant to Section 94-31F3G. Location: the subject right-of-way, North Railroad Avenue, is located within Commission District Number 3, Commissioner Christy Fox. case manager, Chris Kimberly, AICP Senior Urban Designer. And we have the applicant here. Good morning, Joe.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
I have to recuse myself from DAC case number 25-02 and from DAC case number 2503 due to conflicts.
Thank you, Mr. Chagas. So noted.
I also need to recuse myself from DAC case number 25-02 and DAC case number 25-03 as a part of the NORA development team.
Thank you again.
Sorry. Okay,
We do.
gotcha.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
I'm not Margarita Ramirez, just in case you wasn't clear. Hi, I'm Joe First, address at 1105 North Dixie Highway. This is a very long presentation, and before I go into it, I just want to be very clear. This is just a continuation of the exact same streetscape program that exists to the south. So this is for an extension of the streetscape between 10th and 11th Street. We've already completed the streetscape between 7th and 10th Street. So we can go through this presentation as much detail as you'd like, but just to be very clear, this is just an absolute continuation, which was always the plan of not just us, but of course the city and the CRA, who is reimbursing for infrastructure and streetscape expenses here. So all of this has been approved, of course, by city staff and the CRA. So if you'd like me to go through it in detail, I'm happy to, but also want to be respectful of time.
I think if you could expedite it and just, maybe not get into the weeds or the detail, but to
sure.
show the whole thing would be great.
Yep, sure. So I think this is just helpful to orientate you. So of course the orange box is the complete run of North Railroad Avenue. The portion that we're talking about is this 10th to 11th Street extension. Very similar to what we did on 7th Street, which is our southernmost street. The streetscape sort of goes up and wraps to create a complete termination point on 11th Street, the same way it does on 7th Street. So that's that little portion that you see at the top of the screen, that little extension that you see. Another view of it. So street trees, I'm not sure if you guys have been out to the site recently, but you should absolutely come. We open Labor Day weekend, so everything is basically complete. But you can see all of this in place. The city really did a wonderful job, I think, working with us and ensuring we had great trees and canopies and great tree sizes. So I think you'll be quite impressed when you see it. But again, just the continuation of the landscape materials that we already have in place. In terms of the look and feel, so when you come, you'll notice we did a true cobblestone street, so it's not a consistent singular paver. Each paver is unique in size, which really creates a compelling texture. Of course, for us, we want to pay heritage and homage to the railroad, given the history of the buildings that exist on the street. So again, this is the exact same finish material that already exists between 7th and 10th Street. These are the actual finishes that as you approach the curb and the sidewalk, again, you'll see it, but there are 14-foot sidewalks on the east and the west side of the street. They're curbless, and they really look amazing. The sidewalks themselves are actually poured more typical concrete pavers, and we did that really for slipping fall and just making sure we had a nice, consistent walking path along the sidewalks. We have a lot of bike stations. It's actually amazing how many bike stations we have. So hopefully people really start riding bikes in downtown West Palm, because we definitely have, I think we have more bike parking spaces than actual parking spaces. But anyway, we'll continue, of course, with the city requirements for the additional parking. What we've also done is we have cutouts within the streetscape in the exact same form that we have further south in the street for drop off and pickup, for loading, et cetera. So you'll see those in some future drawings. This is a unique condition. So one thing that we've done is we created our NORA Pocket Park program. So if you look at the center of this image on the top, you'll see those 3 green spaces. The middle one, we're actually doing our Arts and Public Places programming. The northern one, we're doing kind of a mixed set of programming for eventing and gatherings. And then you'll notice that the site right across from this portion of the streetscape, we are also recessing the building. That's the multifamily building that I think we've spoken about, but you'll see coming through. And we'll have another plaza there for public gathering. These just shows in more detail, again, those cutouts, you can see them on the west side and of course the east side. This sits right in front of the hotel. So this is the entry point for the Nora Hotel, which is what you see, of course, with the larger cutouts on the west side of the road. And then on the east side is where this multifamily building will exist. Nice chart, kind of just shows again, the curbless nature. I was on a call with Rick Ricanis, who was our civil engineer yesterday, and thanked him and praised him. I mean, there's been some very heavy rains, and obviously you have concerns when you do curbless streets. I've not seen a single puddle at all, so everything seems to be working great, and it's really a beautiful condition when you see it. And obviously I'm happy to slow down, but I think that it's pretty clear exactly what we're doing here. Here's more of a rendered view that just shows the amount of landscape material that goes in the trees and the canopies. And that's it. That's what we got.
Well, thank you. It looks great. I'll turn it over to the board for any comments and questions about the program or the design.
I had a question. Where does it terminate? Does it extend?
Yeah, so if you look, actually this is a perfect drawing for it. So 11th Street is the east-west street that you see to the north of where it says Nora Hotel.
Mm-hmm.
And so we actually continue the streetscape design into that like terminus effectively, so that when you're coming behind the hotel, which that's a portion of the road that has been abandoned, we actually use for circulation to get around the phase 1 retail buildings and the Nora Hotel, and the actual main intersection, which you see there, which is North Railroad and 11th, the same condition exists exactly as it's drawn. As we go to additional projects, so we of course have our multifamily building between 10th and 11th, you'll see a condominium building between 10th and 11th, and then of course additional buildings north of 11th Street. We will work to actually continue the streetscape design and implementation throughout those portions of the district. And we're already having those active conversations with the planning staff as well as the CRAs to really make sure that the neighborhood feels complete.
Okay, so you have that connectivity and you have a kind of a strip condition where it kind
Correct.
of
So
elongates
but
it.
right now, to be very clear, if you look at the street here, which is 11th Street, do you see my mouse hovering? Yeah. So the streetscape kind of stops where my mouse is hovering, and then it goes back to the normal asphalt road. But again, we will be coming back. This is a commitment that we're making, that we're excited about, as part of the development of the multifamily, and then the for sale building, we'll actually want to do a complete street.
I see
both on
other
10th and
phases.
11th.
You'll incorporate that design, that
Exactly.
landscape design. Okay.
But that's
Interesting.
not yet designed and obviously not
Sure.
ripe at the moment.
Okay.
Any other questions? I had a question, if you can just go back to the cross-section, Joe, for a second.
This one?
Yeah, I think it was the other one that showed a little bit more, I guess it looks like soil cells are utilized here, and I was just curious if that was just strictly for the roots of the trees, or if the civil engineer incorporated the stormwater drainage into those systems.
Well, unfortunately, you're now above my pay grade. Okay. So I would need Damien or Margarita, who unfortunately are both traveling, which is why I'm here handling this today, but to answer that question. Okay. Happy to pose that to.
Thanks. Staff has a presentation.
So I can touch on that briefly. So typically with a streetscape design, either you're doing the structural soil or we give the option to do the silva cells. In this instance, due to the curbless nature, the option was to do the silva cells. It's a little bit better for the trees. So that seemed to be the better design feature for that streetscape.
It's really great to see. I commend everybody for using that. That's best practices, and not a inexpensive system, but an investment in the streetscape that I think is going to be here for decades and decades, because it's going to allow roots to grow, healthy trees, great canopy, and not upheave all that curb and hardscape. So it's really great to see that detail. Thank you.
Do you want me to go through my presentation as well, or I have some pictures of the existing conditions?
I think you should. Thank you.
So Chris Kimmerly, Senior Urban Designer. So here are some progress photos from, I want to say maybe about a month back now, where we did a walkthrough of the site. So as you can see, again, we have the landscape planters are coming in nicely. The pavered street is continuous throughout. You know, a lot of the storefronts are finally coming in and finishing up. I think most of the building permits are now wrapping up for a lot of the storefronts as well. As you can see here, again, the planter areas, that curbless design, the drop-off areas, the change in the paving material for the crosswalks. The signage, if you recall, when we came into DAC maybe 4 or 5 months ago for the public rights-of-way signage, so those are now implemented within the design. But yeah, staff recommends approval, obviously, of the continuation of the streetscape. And the next step would be taking this to City Commission with the recommendation from DAC.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you both for your presentations. It looks really fantastic. It really does. It was a beautiful streetscape, and the aesthetics are really, I think, part of that core of that area that's just got its own feel and vibe, and so I think I really appreciate it.
And then just to touch on this condition here, so while staff does recommend approval, we do recommend approval with a condition, and the condition is just that as part of their right-of-way and engineering permits, there were still some outstanding PPRC comments with stormwater and drainage just to hook up with the rest of the system. So we just want to make sure those are cleared up before their actual permitting is for this phase is done.
Okay. Does the applicant agree to the condition?
Sorry, I was talking to Anna Maria.
That's good.
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry, I was just reading it now. Thank you.
You're welcome. Well, I think with that, I'll turn it over to the board for a motion.
May I just add a comment,
sure.
please? It's not a condition, but if I could request, the paver, it seemed, the pictures show that the paver is similar to the coloring and the type in City Place. Is that right? It looked very similar.
It's,
The pavers,
it's funny
the-
that,
like the,
you
yeah.
said that. It really doesn't read, to me, it does not read like this in person. It actually reads, in terms of the actual cobblestone pavers, they do read a little bit more uniform, not quite as different in color when you see it in person. What we did do, and they're true cobblestones, that have kind of height and character and different shape to them. If you notice in the actual pedestrian crosswalks, there we used a paver that's much more similar to what you see in City Place, meaning a exact kind of same shape, size, more brick paver to make it easier for people to cross, because walking on the cobblestone is not quite as smooth as walking on that more uniform paver.
Well, my comment is that if you could please make it easy to clean, because when I go down City Place early in the mornings, I see the maintenance guys, they constantly bleaching them, and they smell bad, and it's so bad for the environment to have such frequent bleaching, and to keep it clean. So maybe make it the color and the material so that it doesn't require frequent bleaching. I think it's just for everybody, the residents who live and breathe it, and then definitely the environment who have to soak up all this bleach all the time. So.
Yeah, I can tell you aesthetically, we actually want it to be different than that. We actually want the street to feel a little bit more worn, like it's been there for the last 100 years, not necessarily as contemporary. We do, just to answer the question, we will have maintenance obligations kind of above and beyond what the city would typically do as part of our CRA reimbursement agreement. So we will be doing enhanced cleaning and whatnot, but I appreciate the comment on the bleach. And again, we don't want to have it be starkly white or clean. We want it to feel a little bit more distressed. And it does in person, I think. Wouldn't you agree, guys, that it doesn't look, it looks different in person?
Great, thank you. Thanks for the comment. And with that, can I get a motion or recommendation? I think there was a screen up previous with the motion on it. Thank you.
I'll make the motion. So move.
Sure. Is there a second?
I second.
Here in a second, I think.
So
I guess you would read that. Go ahead, Gregory.
I move that the Downtown Action Committee recommend approval for the proposed phase of the city design included in that case number 25-02. This motion is based upon the testimony presented along with the application submitted, which constitute component substantial evidence that ensures compliance with the purpose and intent of the zoning code and consistent with the comprehensive plan and the downtown master plan of the city of West Palm Beach. In addition, the recommendation of approval is made conditional upon the following restriction, stipulations, and/or safeguards. 1, at the time of right-of-way and engineering permit submittal, all outstanding PPRC comments and conditions shall be resolved. Is it only one condition?
All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed? Passes 4-0. Congratulations. The next case, I think, is a request by Brian Chegas of iPlan and Design on behalf of Damian Barr of NDT Development for the DAC consideration of a variance request from Section 94-109, Definitions and Minimum Requirements, Table 4-7, Open Space Standards for 1005 North Railroad Avenue pursuant to Section 94-38D6. Location, the subject property, 1005 North Railroad Avenue, totaling plus or minus .30 acres, is generally located at the intersection of North Railroad Avenue and 9th Street within Commission District Number 3, Commissioner Christy Fox. Recommendations. Regarding the variance request review by the Downtown Action Committee, staff recommends approval with conditions based on the findings that the petition does meet all 10 variance standards as outlined by Article 2, Section 94-38D6 of the Zoning and Land Development Regulations. The following conditions are recommended for approval. Oh, is that the motion? I guess we can hear the applicant's presentation.
Sure. Hi. Joe First again, 1105 North Dixie Highway. So before we get into this one, I think you can probably tell from all the hearings that we've been a part of how complimentary I am of planning staff at the City of West Palm Beach. I think they're the most thoughtful and engaged and helpful group that there is. This is a situation where we have one slight disagreement on one of the conditions that's being imposed, so we'll talk about that. But I think the broader conversation, and of course, speak about this to Chris and Claudia and Anna Maria, is, being in the downtown master plan, but having a project that is, at least for our phase 1, is very retail centric. There are certain provisions of the code that we are being held to that really aren't as applicable for these types of primarily adaptive reuse or character centric retail buildings. And I kind of want to just lay that quick foundation as we go through this, because if we were adaptively reusing all of the buildings, so for your recollection, we acquired 11 buildings, we retained 9 of them, and we built 4 new ones. The one that we're talking about today is one of the new construction buildings. All the new construction buildings were built within the same character and scale as the existing buildings on North Road Avenue. And so some we did more contemporary to look like they were new, and others we did more, we'll call them of the era when these were built, to make them look like they had been there for a long period of time. The one that you're about to see is a new construction building, so therefore we're being held to the site plan approval process and elements of the code that if it were adaptive reuse, we would not be held to at all. So it's an interesting standard when you sort of do these smaller scale character enhancement buildings, some of the additional rules and provisions that get sort of put on top of these projects. And there's one that we do respectfully disagree with, one of the conditions that's being imposed on us. So let me just give you a little bit of the background on what we're actually talking about, and we'll go from there. And again, I'll be brief on kind of the portions of this. So in terms of location, you can see it's the red box there. This was a collection of some vacant land, some quasi-temporary buildings, and 2 other buildings that were really in functional obsolescence and real disrepair. So this is the site that we were talking about. If this were adaptive reuse, meaning if we had figured out a way to use the two-story building that you see on the left, the kind of, we see that awning and other building that was sort of built at a different part in time, so was the one on the right, we could have effectively, covered this open space as we so chose. Because these buildings and the way this space oriented and really the configurations and dimensions of these buildings really didn't work for our kind of retail and food and beverage and hospitality focused district, we raised these buildings and built a new one. When we went through the original site plan process back in 2023, and you'll see this came up for those of you that were here when we went for the one on 7th Street, we did the site plan approvals before we had any tenants in mind, right? This was like at the very beginning of the project. And now as we've leased spaces, tenants have had different configurations if I want to use outdoor space or open space and things of that nature. So this originally was approved following this 25% of required open space, the 580 square feet. Now, that we have a tenant in place, basically they want to have more covered area that kind of lines the exterior of the building. This is a single tenant, so this is large. This is a 10,000 square foot interior space, single tenant restaurant with a outdoor patio that's about 2,500 square feet. And so they've designed, of course, an outdoor seating program very similar to the previous application that was here. This is the building that was built. So again, this is a more recent photo, but you can obviously see the dimension of the building and then the open space that you see in the front, which was always meant to be outdoor covered dining. What you don't see clearly is right where the tree exists, more to the right side of the screen, but to the left of the light pole. There's one of our paseos. So we have paseos that go between the back of the buildings to the front of the building. So there's an open paseo that exists between the new building that you see on the left and the adaptive reuse building that you see on the right. This is the proposed site plan. This is the full site plan for the restaurant. This restaurant is Cameron Mitchell Group with one of their specialty concepts called Del Mar, which is currently open in Naples and in Ohio. You can see obviously the full restaurant layout, but what you really need to focus your attention to is in the bottom right of the screen. There's the blue hatched area, and then you see, of course, the open area where it says no cover with the green, and then the white hatched area around it. So basically what's taking place there is that the blue is a permanently covered structure where they have for corridors, dining, it has lights, fans. I mean, it's like an actual, structural space. Everything that you see in the white is a retractable awning, so that's all an awning that can be covered when it's inclement weather, et cetera, but when it's nice, the louvers can be opened. And then the centerpiece that's open are actually trees that are being built and put in the center of the patio. This is an aerial view of it, so you can see it. The darker brown, again, is where that sort of fixed, not open to the sky element is. That's what we're talking about. The allowance under the code is 25%. Here it actually occupies 52%. You can also see the paseo that I mentioned. This is more for your interest of how the project functions to get people from sort of east or west of the buildings. One thing we've maybe spoken about, but just I think it's interesting, all of the back of house and servicing for all of our retail buildings happens behind. So basically, we have ownership of some of our land behind, as well as a lease from the FEC. And we've actually built a two-way road that sits behind these buildings for cars to circulate, for there to be parking, and then for all of the back of house uses to take place. That's just a fun fact you can understand. So the street here is meant to be obviously very clean of loading and debris and things like that. It's very pedestrian focused. Here you see with the blue highlight, that's again, the covered space, but that's not retractable. So our request is to allow that to be not retractable, whereas everything else that you see brown is retractable through a louver system. This is a rendering image of the patio. Most notably, you can see the distinction between the covered area that does not retract, and then of course the louvered area, which is the majority of the space. And you'll notice there's electrical, there's fans, there's lighting, there's all types of fixtures that exist in the covered area, which is why it can't be retractable, and that's an area that was very sort of high volume for pedestrian traffic in and out of the restaurant. So here's where we are. So again, we agree to most of these, but for number one, so the staff recommendation is that any proposed awning or canopy structure over the designated open space shall be retractable to allow open to the sky condition to exist when weather conditions are optimal. We're asking for the removal of that because, again, a portion of the space is not retractable, although the majority is. Two, this is related to the retractable component. The pergola structure system spanning the designated open space shall feature a retractable system or operable louvers to allow the open to the sky condition to exist when weather conditions are optimal. We agree with that. The tree canopy percentage proposed within the open space shall come into compliance with the minimum percentage required under section 94-109. DAC shall thusly rescind variance number 2 from DAC case number 2223 approved on August 9, 2023. So when we did this originally, when we didn't have a tenant in place, there was a request to not comply with the tree requirement because they are actually installing trees that comply with this open space requirement. We, of course, agree that we are happy to rescind the previous variance that basically allowed us to proceed without it. And then this is sort of tied to number 1, but the designated open space area and dining patio should not be gated or fenced off from the public. Unencumbered pedestrian access from the public sidewalk, right-of-way, and passageway shall be maintained for the public at all times. So very similarly, this is a condition that's related to, I think, the kind of, within the four corners interpretation of the open space requirements, allowing pedestrians to flow through. This is a situation where this is actually outdoor dining, obviously with alcohol storage, crowd control, restaurant circulation, et cetera. There needs to be the ability to have sections of this closed off and have access at certain points for people to enter. And more importantly, outside of business hours, there clearly needs to be the ability to close any access from the patio, because then all of the furniture and FF&E that exists within the patio and the restaurant would be sort of subject to potential theft or other issues. So the reason why I gave some of that foundational context in the beginning is that I think if you just looked at this project as a standalone on adaptive reuse, this would be a very well thought out outdoor patio with a very expensive louvered system, adding tree elements within a patio, so there's obviously more of a kind of a natural condition, and of course the ability to close down the open space, very similar to the last application we had here on 7th Street. So this is one of those instances where we sort of disagree with a couple of these recommendations because candidly we believe it's an interpretation based on new development that would exist within like the downtown master plan, when really this is a character building that could have been built to 86 feet in a much different execution, but instead this is a character enhancing building that has kind of sort of mimicked the existing scale that was on the street. So those are our specific requests. It probably makes sense to turn it over to Chris to go from here. But if you have any questions on the application or the restaurant or the tenant, et cetera, happy to answer any of those as well.
Good morning again. Chris Kimmerly, Senior Urban Designer. Just showing here that these are the variance standards, and the variance requested is for the maximum overhead cover permitted within the passageway category. So the code permits a maximum of 25%. Within the applicant's proposal here, we have about 52% the maximum there. So as Joe had mentioned, again, this project did come before DAC previously and was approved by both DAC and planning staff in December. But some additional context here is that the project exists within the NORA 5 district, which has a minimum of a 15% private open space requirement for lots less than 50,000 square feet. So this project here would have a requirement of about 2,320 square feet of private open space, and emphasis on the private there. So rather than building a terrace or an upper level courtyard or, pool deck or something that we typically see in DMP projects. They built it on the ground floor. And so the code here states that when a private open space is located on the ground floor and along a lot frontage, it has to be designed to meet the public open space requirements. And that's the unique nuance here of the code. The applicants selected to use a passageway. So this is the type of open space that they are providing. Previously in the last approval, they got a variance again from the minimum size. So there are some sides that are narrower than 25 feet. So DAC granted the variance on that. And then previously they had a variance on the amount of tree canopy. I believe the old application provided about 21% rather than the required 30. So here was the original site plan approval that went before DAC. Their requirement again is 2,320 square feet. The area provided in red that they showed was about 3,320, so there's 1,000 extra square feet that they didn't necessarily need to incorporate into the open space, but they elected to. Again, at that time, it wasn't programmed other than saying outdoor dining area. It really was left open as an open patio with trees and vegetation surrounding the sides. And the only overhead cover we had in the plans was shown here in this blue area, which is a very limited canopy or awning space on the facade of the building. Just again for further context, so overhead cover typically means a fixed roof-like architectural feature projection above the ground level intended to provide protection from the sun or rain. When we say open space, again, we say it has to be an outdoor area that's open to the sky. And then because they are providing it on the ground floor, has to meet the public open space requirements. The definition of public open space, requires an unencumbered pedestrian access. So this is the proposed design that we see here. So the boundary kind of takes a little more irregular shape in terms of the context of what is counting toward their open space requirement. It still meets the total square footage. So instead of the entire, kind of flagpole shape that they had before, it's a little more irregular now. Still meets the space requirements. Meets now the tree canopy requirements. But now obviously the space is programmed primarily for the restaurant tenant, and so we have far more overhead cover being proposed with the louver and trellis system above. We believe that the variance request does meet all the standards. We do recommend approval. However, we recommend approval with the conditions. Getting into these conditions, so condition 1 obviously was to have the awning or canopies to be retractable. Condition 2 is to have the pergola or trellis structure being retractable. Again, this is to touch on that definition here of open space where it says open to the sky. So when weather is optimal, we would like that space to be more open, so you meet the intent of the code there. Condition 3, again, they provided the trees that they previously lacked, so we believe that the previous variance that was granted can now be rescinded as they've come into compliance with the code. And then condition 4, again, is just to preserve that public open space language, which was original to the first site plan approval. When we granted the variance on the tree canopy and the size of the open space, one of the conditions in that DAC ordinance, again, was to have that unencumbered public access. And so condition 4, where we say, again, we don't want to have this area gated or fenced off because we want to maintain public access at all times. That is why we are recommending this condition number 4. Public notice, mailers went out to all property owners within 500 feet of the project site for both hearings, just clarifying that. And again, staff supports the request. We recommend approval with the conditions as it does meet the variance standards of section 9438D6. there any other questions?
If I could just kind of summarize the understanding. So you have the building, you have a passageway next to it that connects the east and west circulation open spaces. Part of doing that passageway requires the adjacent open space to be accessible and not gated, so the public that's walking through that passageway can go into that space if they wanted to and go out and continue on their way.
Correct, correct.
Okay. Okay, well, appreciate the presentations. I think I understand it. Now we'll turn it over to the board for questions, comments, and discussion.
I had a question about the retractable trellis. I mean, the trellis, theoretically, you could see through it, right? You can see the sky. So does it necessarily need to be retractable? I mean, what does that look like? Do they even have retractable trellises?
Well, the trellis structure itself isn't what we're talking about being retractable. It's the louvers that they have on there, so we're making sure that those are operable.
Oh,
louvers,
okay,
that
so
it's
they're
not
operable.
just a full,
I
canopy
see.
or, vinyl.
Okay, so
or
it's the
something that-
mechanisms within it that can be adjusted so you can
Correct.
see the sky. Okay, so it's not the full,
Not the trellis.
the
like,
trellis
framing
itself. Okay, I
structure,
just
yeah.
wanted to clarify that. Okay, thanks.
I have a comment that maybe Rich, what staff wants to do and what the applicants want to do. I've been to Medellin, Colombia frequently, and there's a lot of really beautiful restaurants there that have seamless indoor-outdoor dining. And the way they, with the frequent unpredictable rain, they one of the mechanism that they use is transparent cover, so you can see the sky, but but if it's rain, it's not, people don't get wet. So, and then plus the moving parts, I'm empathetic that with if constantly moving in and out, cover, close, open, close, the moving part might be more subject to wear and tear and breakdown in big hurricanes, Category 5, get things. So permanent, keep it permanently closed, but then yet still have the illusion of open to the sky would be a good compromise. I think that would achieve the goals of your goals, or the restaurant's goal, and what's the code and staff. What the staff want.
Right,
I
'cause
think that would be a good compromise.
Just to be clear, like, the only issue that we're focused on is this portion of the actual covered space. And the reason why that portion is covered, because that's the component that's actually running the edges of the building, like the lining of the building,
Right.
where all of the access to and from and service runs. And so the idea of having that not be really fully covered, given all the mechanical that exists below it and obviously all the pathway, is the rationale for it. The complication that I have here on the floor trying to make these changes on the fly is, obviously I'm doing this on behalf of our restaurant tenant, given the fact that I have more of an intimate knowledge here. So I wouldn't want to commit to that type of change, but would obviously be glad to take any suggestions back to the team and, see what comes forward. But just to be, very specific, and it's not frustration at all. Like, I really have great admiration for the planning staff. But this is a situation where more typically this is a conversation about private open space that's elevated up on a building. We've created, all of these open sidewalks. There was not even a 4-foot sidewalk in Nora before. There's 14-foot sidewalks. We've created a linear pocket park system. The open space within this district was not even a thing because there was no reason for people to be there. We have actually one of our residents is here. She can probably attest to that. And so for something like this, like, I understand the code, but again, to me, the code was actually really meant for new, larger construction buildings and getting private open space, up and kind of treating it appropriately. And in this situation, it's like, I think that we've demonstrated and proven how much we care about pedestrian experience with everything that we've done. And I think this is one where, unfortunately, the code is dictating an execution or an implementation of a plan that's not really the intended outcome. So that's kind of, the theory of why we disagree. All we're really asking for, the two things, is to allow the covered area to be greater than the 25%, and then to ensure that the access to this private open space can be closed because you can't have a restaurant patio that's open to the public at all times and the restaurant's not operating. So I just want to be very specific about like what the actual request is. The pergola system that's designed, we didn't need to do this louvered system, but because of outdoor dining in South Florida, like it's not realistic to think that you can have however many seats outdoors and be able to serve that consistently without having to deal with the weather. So that's the rationale for the louvered component of it.
I have two questions. One is the portion, it's still not clear to me which portion that needs to be closed off. And
yeah, I think if you just look at this drawing, the section that is in the blue, which says under awning, so you see kind of like an L shape.
Yes.
That's the portion that is effectively closed. And if you notice, you see all of the access doors for the restaurant, the way that this actually operates. So if you look at the, again, let's just direct kind of where we are. The top of the page is north, the bottom of the page is south, east to the right, west to the south. So if you look at the northern facade of the building, you'll see the double doors that you see right in front of the red line. So that's if you're coming to eat indoors or outdoors, when you come in from the street, that's where you're coming. So the idea of not having that be actually covered is problematic given leaks and other things, given that's like the main pedestrian path. The other piece that you see, where you also see the double doors, so now we're focused on the east facade, but again, right off the red line, the same situation. That's where all service is coming through, and again, to not have that be actually covered is problematic for our restaurant operator. One note I want to add, obviously, I do have a fair amount of experience with food and beverage as a landlord or partner and sort of sometime operator. Cameron Mitchell Group is a 100+ unit restaurant operator. Like, they really know what they're doing. And this is something that they believe is like adamant and important for their operation to have this be covered. Everywhere that they could, including where the trees and the open space, and then of course the louvered pieces are all done in accordance with the ability to have, open to the sky conditions. So all we're really asking for here is just the ability to have effectively the, one portion of this L could be approved under the 25%. We're just basically asking for the extension of it to wrap the building the way that we did.
I mean, do you guys have a elevation of that close off, how it looks like?
The closest, if you want to go back to your it's not great, but it's more of a rendering. Yeah, you can just, you had it there. Let me just go back to that one. Sorry if I didn't have it. So this is like the easiest way to see it. So this is taken from basically the corner where both of those walls meet, where we were just speaking about. So you can see that the portion coming off of the building, so the actual attached component coming off the building, is where we're asking to exceed the 25% to the 52%, but that everything else is open, including the area now that these new trees are being installed to create more of a garden atmosphere, which is truly open without any louvered pergola or anything of the sort. So I guess let me just reframe it to be clear, because it is, by the way, it's confusing to me. So it's not the easiest to think through. But the two distinctions are that we'd like the approvals changed based on the cities is, one, of course, to accept the fact that we can have 52% of this open space be the covered component. That's one. And the second condition that they have imposed that we disagree with is that the private open space needs to be open to the public at all times, which we think does not make sense. We're happy to agree to that during operating hours when the restaurant is functioning, but we cannot agree to that when the restaurant is closed, because obviously you can't have people coming into this space without security or personnel when the business is operating.
I'm still confused about the private open space concept. It seems that the first level, because it's open space, it has to be open to the public. But I'm not sure I understand how the operator is securing the space, meaning that, okay, the restaurant is closed, it's midnight, then you're trying to secure the place for your furnitures. I'm not seeing any visuals or kind of able to understand it. Where are you trying to restrict access from the public because it's after hours? That's the part I'm not really.
Yeah, so if I understand correctly with their design.
I was just curious, what are the hours of the restaurant? What would that be?
Yeah, this restaurant is meant to be open for lunch and dinner. The way that the code works is that the service time to end alcohol sales under the existing code is for midnight. We do allow, especially one with a bar program like this, to stay open till 1 a.m. They need to get a conditional permit, and that's just for Fridays and Saturdays. So their allowance is to operate on this situation till 1, but they might not do that. But that's just the way that we structure a lease for something like this.
So the majority of the time, it's going to be open to the public, and then, past 1, if you get the variance, then it will be closed. And majority of people won't even be there, I would imagine.
No, people won't be there. I mean, this would be the equivalent of having any outdoor area that needs to be under protection. And I don't know if there's even really a disagreement with that in principle, although the way the code reads, it needs to be a condition to the approval. But I don't think that there's any intellectual debate about the space being closed when the business is not open.
Seems like I understand that it's going to be open. It's just those hours. It needs to be secured to a degree. So.
Yeah, and to Gregory's comment on what areas would be closed. So again, given that this is the entrance into this restaurant and space, I'm assuming likely there's a gate or some kind of, controlled access here. And then again, when you come out of this dining area back into this passageway, I'm assuming there's probably some kind of, again, gate or something that would be here at these 2 points. So again, the pass-through is still going to be open between the buildings. But in terms of the open space that is part of the dining area, it'll be closed after hours is what they're proposing.
And in the rendering, you can kind of see that gate when you look north. It's low-lying, and it's kind of you'll see it in the rendering.
Try to find it.
It's kind of low, but
You might need Chris's help again.
it's not really intrusive. It's just blocking her,
Yeah,
that
this
L
is
in
probably
that
the other
area.
rendering is better. Hold on one sec, just to pull it
Yeah,
up.
you see it? It's like a
Exactly.
wired gate.
And if it helps the board, staff can recommend or change our recommendation on that condition to really specify that just the pass-through remains unencumbered and open to the public at all times. And then again, this will be open to the public during business hours, but after hours can be closed.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense.
I
Yeah.
think that, let's make sure that when we get a motion, that whatever conditions have been changed, we get that incorporated.
So if I understand correctly, the pass-through there's nothing to restrict access to the public. It's just at the top of that.
Yes, I just pulled up this image because this shows it clearly. If you look at the image let's use the one on the left.
Between the buildings?
Right, in
that's
between the
pass-through?
buildings, that's one of our paseos. That's open to the public 24/7, 365. We're just talking about the area.
And you might have like a small gate.
Correct.
As you try to turn in.
Correct, because the ingress and egress from the restaurant when functional is obviously from North Railroad Avenue, down one of those covered passageways, and then out to the paseo through one of those covered passageways. So that's the area that we're suggesting needs to be closed outside of operating hours.
And staff will be okay with that small gate?
Yes, they said they would be okay with it. If you make a motion, or when somebody makes a motion, we'll say the conditions as revised.
Got it.
So I guess, just to try to help this, I mean, if you agree with that one, the only thing that we're talking about is the change from 25% to 52%, allowing the covered passageway, really, right? So I guess.
And then condition 3, to rescind the tree.
Right. But I'm saying the ones in controversy that need to sort of be thought
Chris,
through.
why don't you get up and go through the conditions and let us know which ones are changed? And that way, when a motion is made, they can just refer back to your statement as to the revised conditions that we're going to put on the record now.
Right. So through our conversation here, conditions 1 and 2 would no longer be applicable as, again, the fixed canopy will have that fixed overhead cover, and the trellised areas are operable with those louvers that we understand. So 1 and 2 are gone. Condition number 3 remains. We ask that that remains. Again, this is just to address the tree canopies, which they're now in compliance with, so they no longer need the old variance. And regarding condition number 4, this should be revised to now state not the entire designated public open space area, but just the passageway or the pass-through between buildings to be open at all times for the public, and that the patio dining space will be open to the public during business hours.
We actually, let me pull something up because we already drafted that. Sure. You might find just to be easier to read. And obviously, if you disagree with what this says, then just let us know. But I think so. If it would be this, if you want to read that and see if.
Yeah. So
This is revised condition number 4, as Chris is going to read it.
the designed open space area and dining patio shall not be gated from the public during regular business hours. Unencumbered pedestrian access from the public sidewalk, right-of-way, and passageway shall be maintained for the public overnight and outside of normal business or normal operating hours.
Thanks.
Well, thanks, everybody. That was a good discussion to walk that through. I think the solution makes sense from a practical nature of operations. I think this is one of those cases where it doesn't exactly fit in terms of all that code, but I think all that sort of big global picture and the details of this seems like it's going to work out. So I appreciate everybody's input, and with that, I'd like to call for a motion.
So move.
I hear a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
I hear a second. And is there a reading of what we need to read?
Yeah,
in terms of
let's
text?
read the motion into the record and the 2 existing conditions.
I move that the Downtown Action Committee approve the variance request included in DAC case number 25-03 as follows. A variance request from section 94-109, table 4-7, where the maximum overhead cover permitted is 25% under the category of passageway. Of the properties required 2,320 square feet of open space. The applicant's proposal illustrates 1,215.5 square feet of overhead cover of 52%. Specifically, the variance requested allows for an increase of 27% of overhead cover. This motion is based upon the testimony presented along with the applicant submitted, which constitute component substantial evidence that the standards in section 93.38D6 have been met.
And then condition number 3 here.
And it would say something like, and this approval is based on the following conditions.
This approval is based on these following conditions.
And then read 3 and read
3
well,
and
Read 3 and then I'll pull up the other one.
okay, read 3 and then Chris is going to pull up 4.
the tree canopy percentage proposed within the open space shall come into compliance with the minimum percentage required under section 94.109 103, table 4.7. DAC shall thusly resent variance number 2 from DAC case number 2223 approved on August 9, 2023. Hold up. I have to still read 4.
I think he's going to pull this one up.
And this is
And then the fourth
Oh,
one.
that's the 4. That's the 4. Okay. The designated open space area and dining patio shall not be gated from the public during regular business hours. Unencumbered pedestrian access from the public sidewalk, right-of-way, and passageway shall be maintained for the public overnight and outside of normal operating hours. That's fine?
Thank you.
Okay.
All those in favor, say aye.
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 Those opposed? Passes 4-0. Congratulations. Welcome. Okay. Moving on, I think code revision cases, no code revision cases. Administrative appeals, no administrative appeals. Unfinished business, is there any unfinished business? I don't think so. Any new business? I forgot to ask, can I ask one more question on the tent site? Just as a quick update, what's happening there as a status?
It's under construction.
I can see that. I feel
Yes.
totally in the dark, like, I don't know what's happening here. I should know
Yes.
this. What's happening?
It is moving forward, so we're happy about it.
In Northwood?
No, the tent side on Okeechobee
And what
Boulevard.
is it? What is the program on that site?
It
for the
is
building?
a 25-story office building with a parking garage.
Great.
Yes, you guys didn't approve that one. It was a city commission approval, yes.
Yeah, and why wasn't that as part of DAC? Is that
Because it's part of the city place DRI,
Oh.
so that goes to the city commission process, not the DAC.
That's why I didn't know about it. Okay, thank you. Appreciate the update.
So it's a large building, so probably will take 2.5 years to be completed, but they're moving forward, so we are pretty excited about it.
Wow, that is exciting.
Can I ask a question about a project, Sunset Lounge? Is that open yet, or is that?
They are right now working on the interiors, on the finishes of the interior, like fitting all the furniture and the kitchen and all that. So that is going on right now. So I think they're expecting it will be open by the end of the year.
End of the year. Oh, great. Thanks.
I'm actually working with CRA on those contracts, and it's a process.
But they're working on the interiors right now.
Yeah.
Construction is going on inside.
Any other business? Hearing none, we are adjourned. Thanks, everyone.